Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Hello, and you're very welcome to another episode of the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Joining me all the way from Bonnie, Scotland, Fino, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Joe?
Very good, thanks, JP.
There's no Kevin this week. He's off on a remote island. And we have a special guest, a big Arsenal fan, in Manfred. Manfred, how you doing?
Hello, I'm no Kevin.
Kevin will be joining us later for his poem, of course. So, another crazy weekend of Premier League football. We're going to have a quick look at the results, just to tell you what's going on in the show this week. And then we're going to go ahead and have a look at some of the most dynamic striking partnerships in the Premier League history, because it's come up this week about Harry Kane and Son. Are they the most dynamic? We'll chat about that. Are the amount of European games affecting the Premier League title race, and will they at the end? We'll have a little chat about the pay-per-view system and preview next weekend's games. So going straight to Villa Park last Friday night, Aston Villa 0, Leeds 3. No one's seen this one coming. Hat-trick for Patrick Bamford, who basically, the media was saying when Leeds went up that they need to sign a striker. What a result.
Hat-trick Bamford, as he's being known as now. Incredible result. Obviously, Villa were the only team to have won every single match that they played this season in the Premier League. And I was just looking at Patrick Bamford earlier. He's had more clubs than Tiger Woods. I'm just going to run through them now. So Bamford had played at Forest, Chelsea, MK Dons, Derby, Middlesbrough Palace, Norwich, Burnley, back to Middlesbrough, and now Leeds. So he's certainly done it the hard way.
I think he's also done a Declan Rice as well. I think he's played for Ireland and now he's playing for England.
He may well have done. Yeah. But I mean, fair play to him, and I think Leeds are going to give a lot of teams a serious headache this season.
I think Joe's got a bit of a hex on a few people in the Premier League this season. 2 weeks ago, he said his, the player that's disappointed him most was the Timo Werner, the Chelsea striker, and Werner bangs in too. Last week he said Aston Villa are the only team in the whole of Europe that are undefeated, and they lose. Did you watch this one, Fino?
Yeah, I mean, I think Leeds looks pretty good, to be honest. Patrick Bamford gets a lot of stick, and I don't really understand why. I think he's just one of a host of young English strikers playing very well ahead of next year's Euros.
He was Irish, though, last year.
Well, if you say so.
Yeah, he played underage level.
But that's 6-6 this season. And the way that he was scoring those goals, I mean, his second was a great finish from outside the box, and his third, he had, I think, 3 or 4 Villa players around him, used his quick feet and managed to get the ball past the goalkeeper. He's looking like a very handy striker in the Premier League, and obviously for Villa, a night to forget.
Yeah, I think him and the rest of the Leeds team will only improve under Marcelo Bielsa. Quick run through of Saturday's results. West Ham 1, Man City 1. I actually watched this one. I'm sure you did, Fino.
Yeah, I did. And I think West Ham were arguably the better team. I think there's really positive signs there, and the fans weren't that happy with the point of the weekend.
The goal, Antonio's goal, was fantastic. Back to goal, and City looked not as fluid as normal. West Ham frustrated them in defence, and when they went ahead, they went the man back, and yeah, it could be a long season for Pep. I'm sure Kev will be happy with the result.
Yeah, I think with Antonio, again, he's showing more and more the ability to finish. He seemed a bit of a rough diamond when we initially signed him. Kufal, the Czech right back, looks like a really good signing. Even Aaron Cresswell, who I gave stick for before on the show.
You did.
He's now playing at left centre back. It works quite nicely. We either play 3 at the back or 5 at the back, depending if we're in or out of possession. And Cresswell provides that nice overlap for Masuaku, and we're still having 2 centre backs at the back. So yeah, I mean, West Ham, very positive.
Yeah, an amazing turnaround for West Ham after a terrible start. Fulham 1, Palace 2. Predictable enough score, I suppose. I think Fulham might have to wait till Christmas to get the win. The only win it might come from Santa Claus, the way things are going. Man United 0, Chelsea 0, Borough draw. Liverpool 2, Sheffield United 1. Biggest shock of the season. Liverpool actually won a game without Van Dijk. Surely it was going to be the end of the season when Van Dijk was injured. But late goal from Diego Jota, as Kevin likes to pronounce. Just a quick look at Sunday's games. Big shock. Southampton 2, Everton 0. Joe?
Yeah, it was remarkable. So this game took place on the 1-year anniversary of Southampton's infamous 9-0 defeat to Leicester. So what better way to mark it than beating the league leaders? Everton were unbeaten in 5. They were top of the league. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was scoring every game. But it was actually fairly comfortable for Southampton, which was very surprising. Danny Ings set up both goals. Che Adams looked a threat all match. Southampton now are unbeaten in 4. I'm not saying that we're going to be, going on a European tour next year, but there's certainly positive signs that we're not going to be involved in the relegation scrap this season, which I think is what fans realistically is all they want.
Yeah, the Hasenhüttl has turned them around and they've become hard to beat. Good result for Southampton. Everton, they're the wounded animal now, aren't they? And they play Newcastle on the weekend, so I'm not looking forward to that. Did you watch that one, Fino?
Yeah, I did. Joe, I'd like to get your opinion on the red card from Luca Digne. There's been a lot of conversation around it as to whether or not it was a red card. Obviously, he treaded on the ankle of, I can't remember who it was in the Southampton team, but if he treads on his toes, is it a red? I don't think there was intent. What were your thoughts?
Well, it's really hard to know whether he did mean it or not. I've watched it about 10 times now. I think it was rash. I think it was dangerous, and Kyle Walker-Peters could have suffered a really nasty injury. He scraped his studs down the back of his Achilles. Having said that, if the Southampton player had been sent off for that, I would have been very frustrated. But I think ultimately it was the correct decision.
Yeah, Wolves won, Newcastle won. Great result for Newcastle. I really feared this game. John Joe Shelby was out with a groin injury. He got surgery. Isaac Hayden, who you know from Arsenal, Manfred.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he's a solid enough player. He was out. So basically it was a makeshift midfield. And Wolves never really got, inside the Newcastle box. There was no real clear-cut chances. And the goal they scored with 10 minutes to go was an absolute cracker. And with a few minutes to go, Newcastle did what they did at Tottenham, and they snatched an equaliser through a Jacob Murphy free kick. We'll be very happy after the last week's, basically the fall apart against Man United in the last 4 or 5 minutes to come away with a point. Alan San-Maxima, I hate to say this, had his worst game in the Newcastle shirt. He just wasn't involved at all. He didn't do anything. He didn't try. And yeah, I really hope that the performance has improved against Everton this week. Arsenal 0, Leicester 1. Manfred.
Yeah, very frustrating match for an Arsenal fan, yet again. Mostly because I think we were the better team in the first half. We had a goal disallowed, which I think should have stood. I didn't see any infringement by Xhaka on the goalkeeper. I don't know. Odd one again, because VAR didn't really look at it very long. I thought they just sort of went, that's the decision, let's not look too long. Then Lacazette missed a sitter. And in the second half, you lose Luiz. And if he is your most creative player on the pitch, then you know you're in trouble. I read this mad stat that he still ended up with the most passes into the final third. Wow. Even though he went off after like 50 minutes or something. When on a good day, he can ping the balls to the wings. Tierney's great at crossing. This works. But second half, we had about one chance. I think it was Bellerin. And Vardy comes on. Mustafi gets told where to run. He doesn't do it. It's inevitable, really. You see him coming on and you think, okay, he's going to score. And it was the 11th and 12th, I think, against Arsenal. And it's their first away win since 1973.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Vardy, he always tends to score against Arsenal, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's annoying. And it's even more annoying when it's Mustafi who makes the mistake that leads to it. It's not just his mistake, but he just trots back and sort of throws his arms up. And apparently we're offering him a new contract now. So because of that, I guess. But
it's been a half-decent start for Arsenal. They kind of went on a momentum run of beating Man City, beating Chelsea, winning the Cup, beating Liverpool, winning the Community Shield. And, they weren't too bad. And the signings that come in, I think, have been all right. But, Leicester have been off form the last couple of games. And it's not one that you'd mark off the chart at the start of the season saying, yes, we're going to beat Leicester at home, if it was, for example, Fulham. But I'm sure you'd be very disappointed.
Yeah, it started well. I think now it looks a bit more mediocre. After 2 defeats, we're kind of stuck in the middle again, where we normally are lately. It's slowly but surely people are starting to question what Arteta is doing, if he's picking the right players, has he got the right system, and it's not as nice as it used to feel at the start of the season anyway.
Are you worried about the form of Aubameyang since he got his massive new contract? He hasn't done a huge amount, has he?
Actually, I'm not so much worried about him. I'm worried that we have no creative midfielder who can actually supply him with chances.
What about Willian?
Well, he had a good first game. Since then, he's been immensely underwhelming, as far as I'm concerned. So, you've got this vacuum. If your creative passes are pinged out of defence, then they're going to go to the wings. They're not really going to go directly to Aubameyang at this point.
If only you had a creative World Cup winner
World
somewhere.
Cup winner, yeah.
Yeah, well...
with a Turkish surname.
I mean, Ozil is our new Wenger. He divides every single fan I meet. So I think it's weird that he's out. I don't know why. I wouldn't mind to have the option on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, he's a brilliant passer of the ball. He can split defences and, land a pass on a sixpence. And there's obviously an internal problem with him and Arteta or somebody else on the board, because he's a World Cup winner, like Joe said, and he's world class. Any other players who like to score against Arsenal, Fino?
Yeah, well, I read at the weekend that Wayne Rooney is the player that has scored most goals in the Premier League against Arsenal, and then it's Jamie Vardy. And for all of Arsenal's shortcomings, Leicester looked a different beast when he came on. I think you saw it most notably with, I think it was Pratt that was playing up front, and he was constantly coming short to take the ball in. But the thing is with Vardy is he's got the pace to go in behind you, so he's constantly playing on the back shoulder. And ultimately, that was what paid when he managed to get that winning goal.
Big win for Leicester, much needed win. The Monday night games, Brighton won, West Brom won, boring enough. And then Burnley 0, Tottenham 1, which will lead us to our next conversation. Son with the goal, him and Harry Kane at it again. They were brilliant last week, brilliant all season, both of them together. I mean, they signed Bale, but nobody's talking about Bale anymore. It's Kane and Son, and they came up. The debate came up this week if they were the best Premier League striking partnership in history. Joe?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but so far this season, Son has scored 8 goals and Harry Kane has assisted 7 of them, which is remarkable. And Son has then assisted Kane for 2 of his 5 goals as well. So they obviously enjoy playing together. It seems every single game, one of them scores, one of them assists. Obviously, Kane this season seems to be playing a little bit deeper, which I think has helped the team because he's just assisting all over the pitch. And I think when you get Gareth Bale fit and firing, playing alongside those two, Tottenham, Tottenham's front three could be very scary.
Yeah, I'm sure, Manfred, you're going to go for Henry and Bergkamp.
Yeah, I don't credit anyone who plays for Tottenham for anything, really. No, but it's great stats. They're obviously brilliant players. I don't know. Henry, Bergkamp, I think the team back then that we had just didn't have 2 players. It was more like a collective of 4 attacking players. You had your Ljungbergs, your Pires, and of course Vieira, who could play a ball too if he wanted to. So it's very exceptional what they're doing. I don't think we had that to that extent ever.
From a Newcastle point of view, I mean, I look at Peter Beardsley, Andy Cole, Shearer and Ferdinand, both huge players, but I think they were too similar. My partnership, I'm sad to say, is not a Newcastle one. It's a Man United one. I think the best I've seen together. Although a close second will be Shearer and Sutton of Blackburn when they won the title in '95. But I'll go for Andy Cole and Dwight York and Man United in that treble-winning season. Fino, who have you got?
Well, I think it's interesting that, I read something on the BBC where they were doing a poll which was like, who are your greatest Premier League duos? And actually, the number of striking partnerships were not that high. The majority of them they were talking about were Silva and Aguero, or Drogba and Lampard, or midfielders to attackers. But for me, I think it has to be Drogba and Lampard. I think those two, again, similar to Kane.
But Lampard's not a striker, Fino.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, is that actually the Premier League duos, this kind of, you either assist or score, majority of them come from midfield to striking partnerships rather than actual striking partnerships. I kind of get the feeling that in the modern day Premier League, striking partnerships have kind of become a little out of fashion, shall we say. And I think that's what you're seeing with Kane and Son, is that Kane's had to drop back considerably more, which is all to do with Mourinho's tactical decisions to actually create this Premier League striking duo. So yeah, I think in terms of production, Son and Kane have to be up there. I think it's 29 goals they've combined for in their careers. But yeah, for me, in terms of a Premier League duo, in terms of assists and goals outright, Lampard and Drogba are hard to beat.
Yeah, completely. I think you're right. In the modern day Premier League, it seems teams prefer playing, the 4-3-3 seems to be the kind of formation of choice. But I think at Southampton now, so obviously we have Ings and Adams, and we're really seeing the value in a kind of dedicated strike partnership.
These things are cyclical, right? you have a little and large up top, and then suddenly it becomes fashionable to play with no recognised striker and a very fluid front three. And then suddenly everyone gets used to playing that fluid front three, and then you go little and large again, and the defenders don't know what to do. So I think, Southampton can definitely reap the benefits of that kind of recognised striking partnership, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, if they keep going the way they're going, they're going to have one hell of a season. Son and Kane, and let alone the Brazilian they've signed, and they've got Gareth Bale as well. They've frightening prospects up front, Tottenham. Before we go on to the weekend's games, have a quick look at the Champions League and the Europa League. It's a crazy amount of games, and because there was no break, as Joe brought up earlier on, there was no break really. I think there was about a month between the end of last season and when this season started. So if you're a team that's playing in Europe, it's definitely going to affect your title aspirations more than normal.
I think it does anyway in a normal season when you're playing Thursday, Sunday in the Europa League. But now, because the season has been shortened, it seems the games are crammed in even more. So you look at the teams, Chelsea, Arsenal, Leicester, Spurs playing in the Europa League, Champions League, Man United. They're literally playing 2-3 times a week constantly now up until Christmas. And I'm just wondering if the likes of Everton and Wolves, who have 6 or 7 days between matches to actually be on the training field, practicing things, training, they have a massive advantage, I think.
Already seeing that in Scotland with Celtic. Celtic lost to Rangers. They then went and played AC Milan at home on the Thursday and then struggled to a 3-3 draw against Aberdeen on the Sunday. I think it's very tough for teams to have the size of squad to be able to cope with the pressures of a Europa League or a Champions League, and then also the Premiership. And I think that's also maybe where, for example, if Arsenal were thinking a bit more big picture, they could have put Ozil into their European team and have him fresh for just the Europa League games versus the Premier League games on the weekend.
I'm sure you'll agree, Manfred. Also, I'm sure you would have went to the game in Vienna if you were allowed.
Yeah, probably. I do agree that Ozil should be in one of the two squads, at least. It makes no sense to have him sitting around as a glorified fan account now. I mean, he literally live tweets matches from home and posts polls who's the best player. It's grotesque that your best paid player is sitting at home doing nothing. And I still think he could at least, contribute and maybe teach the younger kids something who are playing in the Europa League. And it would probably relieve the stress to have an extra player. But for some reason, I don't know what happened, but it seems he's not wanted and he doesn't want to contribute either. So this is where we are.
But he's not that old. He's not only about 31, 32, is he? Or
yeah, well, you'd think. I think Arsene Wenger said recently he should be in the best years when it comes to, he doesn't have to run much. He's very good at passing.
Exactly.
So you'd think he could contribute. Whatever happened, it must be so massive that Arteta is willing to take the decision on his cap and say, I will live with it. And it's very divisive, not decisive, sorry. I'm against it. I think he should be in the squad, at least of one of the two.
It's bonkers, really. I mean, I'd take him at Newcastle in January. I'm sure you'd take him at Southampton, Joe, as well.
Not on those wages, I wouldn't. I mean, would bankrupt the whole club.
To play for a club like Southampton, he'd take a pay cut.
Maybe he would.
I mean, after we've given him, 8 million loyalty bonus, he can probably afford to play for free, I suppose, if you ask him nicely.
He's no Stuart Armstrong, though.
I think he's going to go into Turkish politics at the end of his career, which won't be too far away, the way things are going. I mean, the Champions League and Europa League are back this week again. Let's see what impact that takes on the weekend's games coming up. The pay-per-view row rages on. Premier League teams and their boycotts. The fans have raised over 300 grand for charity last week. This is only going to be, I think it's another month left. This surely has to stop. Mike Ashley got involved, saying, that he wants a review. He's pissed off at the Premier League because they wouldn't allow the sale. That's why he's getting involved. His hidden agenda, old fat Mike. But surely, Fino, this can't go on to Christmas, this pay-per-view thing.
Well, what I didn't realise is that actually Sky and BT had no say in the matter. It was a full Premier League decision, and actually they've now come out and said, we don't want a pay-per-view system either, because they're seeing the negative impacts on their branding and their subscription figures on this decision that was clearly just motivated by money. I see that they've also talked about bringing it down to £10 a game. To be honest, I think you need to bring it down to £3 or £4 a game for actually getting people to pay for it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hopefully common sense will prevail at some point and it will be scrapped. I think I read today that the Premier League clubs are actually meeting today, supposedly, to decide whether to carry it on for next month. Hopefully, it will soon be over.
Yeah, it's you're not going to spend 15 quid to watch Fulham against West Brom. It'll probably end in a goalless draw. Moving on, the FA, basically teams are pledging to introduce hiring targets with this new diversity code. Over 40 clubs have pledged to introduce hiring targets aimed at tackling inequality across senior leadership positions, broader team operations and coaching roles. Here's one for you, Joe. Of the Premier League 20 teams, 19 have joined. Southampton are the only ones that didn't do it.
I read that and I'm very surprised. I'd like to read their reasons why they didn't, because it's very surprising.
Raheem Sterling is behind a lot of this. Fair play to him. He's done a lot for racism and for this to push the diversity code thing. I was shocked that Southampton, which seemed like a family club, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. We'll see what comes out of this.
Yeah, let's see what comes out of it. I think I briefly saw earlier that Southampton had said that they hadn't been given enough time to properly read through the document and the proposal in great detail. They felt rushed, which may have had something to do with it.
Fino, you're back in the UK now. What's the feel now around this pay-per-view thing?
Still the same as it is, just consistently negative.
I mean, I watched the Newcastle match on a stream. I'm not ashamed to say, because it's bonkers money, absolutely crazy. And so you reckon, Joe, that it'll be gone by next month?
I would think so. I think they haven't released the numbers, so obviously the numbers are very, very poor. No one's buying it. I think they'll scrap it, yeah, for sure. Right,
moving on to the weekend Premier League games. We kick off on Saturday, and these are Central European time. Sheffield United versus Man City at 1:30. Burnley, Chelsea, 4 o'clock. And the evening kickoff, Liverpool versus West Ham at 6:30. Sheffield United, Man City. It's only going to go one way, right, lads?
Yes. No, I don't think it gets much easier for Sheffield United this week, having played against Liverpool last week. The only saving grace is that Pep is without Aguero again, and he needs a reaction from his team after that pitiful performance against West Ham. They were listless, and I'm kind of starting to agree with Kev that it's not the red side of Manchester that has the hottest managerial seat, but the blue side.
Sheffield United actually played pretty well against Liverpool, but they're just not, they're just not picking up the points. I think they've only got 1 out of 6. If they lose this one, they'll be 1 out of 7 matches, and it's just not looking good for them. So I agree. I expect Man City to win this one.
Yeah, Man City away win. Interesting they didn't sign a striker because Jesus was out as well at the start of the season, and Aguero, and they didn't really sign anybody. Raheem Sterling can play up there and the Mahrez can play up there. But Man City win, Manfred?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, there is actually a game on Friday night as well, and it should be a cracker. Wolves against Palace. Wolves, I haven't watched much of them this season, but I did watch, like I said, the entire game against Newcastle. They're lovely to watch. They knock the ball around. They've got players who are easy on the eye, comfortable on the ball, but in a sense, don't get offended, Manfred, but they kind of play like Arsenal sometimes, where they try and score the perfect goal, what I've seen anyway, against Newcastle. But Palace are in form. Saha is always a threat. I'm going to go for a draw in this one. Fino?
Palace obviously coming off the back of winning against Fulham, but Fulham had 70% of the possession last weekend, so clearly they're used to playing without the ball, and I think that will probably be the case on Friday. Wolves need to start picking up some points. I think that's their second game on the trot that they've dropped points in. They are always entertaining, and as you say, they are quite like Arsenal. It's a tough one to call, actually. They're both kind of mid-table. I think they both sit above Arsenal and Chelsea at the moment. So yeah, I think I'll go with a draw as well.
Are they quite like Arsenal, Manfred?
Yeah, it's like Arsenal used to be, more likely. Not so much like we are now. So I take no offence to that at all. No, they play very good football on their day. I think they'll win this one, actually.
Yeah, obviously Wolves have got the main man striker, Jimenez, who seems to score most weeks. Palace just, they seem to frustrate the life out of you. I think I saw a poll recently where the majority of football fans said if there was one club they wouldn't want a season ticket to, it was Palace, because they don't dominate possession, they don't have the ball, they don't create many chances, but somehow they always seem to come away with 1 or 3 points.
Burnley versus Chelsea, 4 o'clock. Burnley 1 point from 5 games. Horrific start for them. Chelsea, humble and Hon, they look good. They're scoring, they concede, they're drawing. It's hard to know what to think of this Chelsea team, Fino.
Chelsea win here, surely. I actually thought they looked a little devoid of ideas last week. They didn't really know how to break Man United down. I know that they were claiming that they should have had a penalty on Azpilicueta, which would have brought them all 3 points against Man United. But they looked outplayed against Sevilla in Europe last week. And I don't know whether or not we're still just needing to give this Chelsea team a bit more time to gel in and understand the patterns of play. But they really need to kind of start picking up points quickly. Burnley, they did well against Tottenham, frustrating them. This will be the same kind of game, but I would see probably a similar result as last night, a 1-0 win for Chelsea.
Yeah, I think Chelsea will do this one. Money?
Yeah, I can't see anyone else winning but Chelsea. Burnley's have a horrific start. Chelsea seem to be in trouble with gelling their new players, I guess, a little bit, so that's why they're on and off, but I can't see how they would lose that one.
Burnley's a funny one. I think for the last 5 years, I've gone into the Premier League season thinking that Burnley may get relegated. Then they always seem to end up, 9th, 10th, 11th. I think I've said this before. The one thing Burnley have got going for them is they've got a very experienced manager in Sean Dyche. And I would think that he will drag them out of it at some point.
Burnley did nothing in the transfer market, though. And this is something we said about at the start of the season, that Sean Dyche is going to have to spend some money in January. And I mean, they've always had this core of British and Irish players and, kind of journeymen who get stuck in and just do enough to stay up. And they always give you a game. And, but I think the way the Premier League is this season, because the fans do a lot for Burnley as well. I don't know. I can see them definitely going down.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point you've raised there, is no team likes going to Burnley. The fans are really loud. They're kind of aggressive. They're on top of you. So if clubs, can go there and find it really, really difficult. So Burnley without the fans isn't the same thing, is it?
No, not at all. We picked out the game on Sunday, actually, as the game of the weekend, but this game could be a cracker, Fino. 6:30 on Saturday evening, Liverpool at home to West Ham, who are in form, hard to beat, and scoring goals.
Yeah, I mean, I picked this as my game of the week, and not just because half of the normal podcast crew support the teams. I think West Ham have looked really good, and as I've said, the three centre-backs seem to have a nice understanding. Mikhail Antonio, I think it's a shame that you've got players like Calvert-Lewin, Kane and Ings in front of him having equally great seasons, because I think he'd be in the England squad otherwise. Liverpool's still a tough opponent without Van Dijk and potentially without Alisson. I know he was back in the squad. Could be interesting, though, if Adrian's coming in to face his old team.
What a run of fixtures for West Ham, Fino. They had Tottenham, Man City and now Liverpool. Imagine if they can go through all three of those matches and not losing any of them. That would be incredible.
It would be so West Ham to not lose any of those games and to then start dropping points against bottom of the table, Fulham, etc. It's a very difficult existence as a West Ham fan. You just get used to disappointment.
I mean, Liverpool will be red hot favourites, and you said there, there's no Van Dijk and no Alisson, but they're still one of the richest teams in the world. They've won the Premier League, Champions League the season before. They brought in Alcantara, Jota, the superstar signings, so Liverpool will still be favourites, and justifiably so. But if they don't win, and if they go on a little dip of form, we will see how much they rely on Mr. Van Dijk. What's your opinion on this one, Manfred?
I think Liverpool are going to win this one easily. I feel West Ham might have... I mean, I've not seen much of West Ham, so sorry if you know. But I think they might be overstretching a bit towards this one. It seems like they had to put a lot of hard work into the last two games, and I feel Liverpool, if they have a good day, I think they'll exploit that.
If you think about Liverpool being in Europe, that's probably the best way that West Ham can capitalise. If they're playing Tuesday or Wednesday, West Ham have the full week, just as we've talked about. They can really hone in on Liverpool's weaknesses. They weren't stunning against Sheffield United. West Ham are definitely have a bit more about them than Sheffield United. So I'm going in with hope rather than expectation, but it will be interesting to see. I wouldn't put it past us to sneak a result. Liverpool
are actually at home tonight against FC Midtjylland, Fino, so no European hangover, I don't think, unfortunately for you. But yeah, it should be a cracker of a game. I'm going to go for a draw in this one.
I'm going to go for a Liverpool victory. I think, like Manfred said, I just don't see any way that West Ham can not lose against one of those big three teams they've played.
They could have beaten Man City, right, Fino?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were good value. I mean, obviously we lost 3 goals in 16 minutes against Tottenham, but against Man City we did look really good. And I don't know whether or not that says more about West Ham or Man City, but yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm going in with hope, not expectation, but I'll be disappointed if we go into Anfield and kind of roll over.
Yeah, if you're David Moyes, though, I mean, you're sitting there with your team talk and you're going, right, we're going to Anfield. There's no fans, there's no Van Dijk, there's no Alisson. Let's go and have a go at them. You know, it's the best time to play them, I think. But we'll see on Saturday evening. Super Sunday, 4 games. Aston Villa versus Southampton at 1 o'clock. Joe?
Yeah, I think it will be interesting to see how Aston Villa bounce back from their 3-0 drubbing by Leeds. Obviously, Southampton are in full of form, unbeaten in 4, as I said earlier. If Ings and Adams can, combine again, I can see Southampton winning this one.
I mean, Aston Villa were going for the top of the league. A reality check. They might be reeling a little bit, and they might have a proper goal at Southampton. It should be a good game, good way to start the Sunday.
Yeah, difficult to say. Aston Villa obviously surprised me at the start of the season. Maybe it takes more out of them if their title challenge has come to an end prematurely with that last defeat. But it will be interesting to see what they do now.
Yeah, obviously when you have Barkley and Jack Grealish in your team, they can always create problems. But Southampton have been pretty strong defensively. I think they've kept 3 clean sheets out of their 6 games, so you never know.
Sorry, Villa fans. Manfred said your title bid has come to an end after 5 games. How do you see this one going, Fino?
Yeah, I actually think Southampton are going to beat Aston Villa. I think they're flying high at the moment. I've not really got a lot else to say aside from I thought Ryan Bertrand was excellent on the left-hand side at the weekend. He was constantly finding space, or he was constantly given space, always looked dangerous. Yeah, I think Southampton will look good value for the win. I'm
going for a Villa win. Sorry, Joe. Newcastle versus Everton at 3 p.m. Central European time. Newcastle, no Shelvey. Hayden could be out. Everton, of course, won't be happy after that defeat by Southampton. Ancelotti with all his stars and a reality check. I would gladly take a point for Newcastle the way things are going. But what I will say about Newcastle is they've become defensively very strong and organised and hard to beat. So they'll be looking for a St. Maxima or a free kick or something to get a breakaway goal and then probably sit back and try and defend it. I'll take a draw on this one.
Yeah, I think I would probably go for a draw for this one as well. I think Newcastle are a fairly funny team, similar to Crystal Palace, I'd say. Don't create loads of chances, don't have much of the ball, but can just kind of grind out results. So, yeah, I'll go for a draw for this one as well.
I'm not sure. I don't know enough about Newcastle United, I'm afraid. I haven't seen them play a single game this season so far. But I think Everton, well, probably have too much for them. I think they'll try and get a reaction after losing. And, sorry.
Well, let's hope not. Fino?
Everton are coming off what I think everyone agrees, and sorry, Joe, is a bit of a shock result against Southampton. I think they probably showed the naivety of a team that are up the top end of a table and aren't used to it. They saw results go their way with Aston Villa losing, and they couldn't capitalise. It would have been a massive game to win, but they just couldn't manage it. I would be expecting a reaction, but maybe this is the end of the Ancelotti fairy tale for this season. But Newcastle have been recently active in the transfer market, as I said to you guys a few days ago, signing a former bricklayer who's pals with Alan Saint-Maximin after he scored a stunning overhead kick during a trial. Now, Steve Bruce has called it a risk. I think it's mental, to be honest.
That's fake news, Fino.
If you say
I can't believe you're reading the tabloids now. You're back in the UK. Okay, we shall see. I mean, didn't Graham Souness sign a guy from Southampton?
Yeah, his name was Ali Dia. He came on as a substitute, and then they realised that it was a scam, and then he very quickly got substituted again.
Yeah, Newcastle did sign a guy once, similar circumstances. He was a World Cup winner called Stefan Givash, who was the worst signing in history. Game of the weekend, 5:30, Man United at home to Arsenal. Man United hammered by Tottenham at home, turned it around to beat Newcastle, won away at Paris Saint-Germain, the board draw against Chelsea. But it's hard to know which way this one's going to go. From an Arsenal point of view, Manfred?
I think we need to win this one. We still haven't beaten the Big Six team since, and you wouldn't believe it, January 2015 away.
Wow.
It's been ages, and Arteta needs one of these big scalps now. I think it's the next step, otherwise he'll face more criticism from our own camp at some point. So, yeah, difficult. We need to win this one. We've been pretty rubbish every time we've gone to Manchester United, though, sadly. regardless of how much trouble they have, we seem incapable of winning there. So, again, maybe like Fino said before, I'm more hopeful than anything, but I do think we need to win this one.
What I have noticed about Man United this season is they are conceding a lot of chances, let alone the 6 goals against Tottenham. But even in that Newcastle game, the Harry Maguire, the Luke Shaw at the back, he finds himself out of position a lot of times. If Lacazette, Aubameyang, Pepe, who I really rate, and Willian are firing, I mean, it's possible that Arsenal can grab a win here.
You'd hope so. The question is, are we going to play him? I think Arteta's been fairly conservative with his lineups when it comes to big games away, and he tends to sit back a bit more. We don't really unleash our power on people.
If only you had a creative World Cup winning German midfielder, Joe.
And by the way, I don't think that he's going to be the solution, but I think it would be good to have him on the bench as an option, at least.
It's sad, really.
Yeah, I'm not sure on this one. I think both teams will be so desperate not to lose that they may both not go for the win. So I'm going to go for a draw in this one.
Draw, Fino.
Tellez has come in on the left-hand side of defence for Man United and he's shored it up a little bit. They are still conceding a lot of chances. Man United will be feeling good about themselves, as you said, JP. The Newcastle result, the PSG result, and then a solid but unspectacular draw against Chelsea. Arsenal will be feeling pretty aggrieved, I think, having not taken anything from the game against Leicester. I would hope to see an end-to-end game, but Man United playing in Europe, I think again might be a factor. Arsenal playing in Europe might be a factor. The legs will get tired after 70 minutes. We could see a couple of late goals, I think. If I was to pin my prediction, I'm going to say Arsenal 2-1.
Arsenal playing in Europe, they're at home to Dundalk, so it's not too bad. Man United, I think, are at home also in the Champions League against Leipzig. That's tomorrow night. Then, of course, the evening game, Tottenham against Brighton. This is only going to go one way, lads, right?
100%. 3 away wins for Tottenham after the win against Burnley. Burnley did show how to slow them down a bit. Kane didn't look, despite his assist, didn't look great. But I also don't believe that Brighton can play the way that Burnley play, even if they wanted to. So I think this is only going one way.
Put your rent money on Tottenham, Joe?
Yep, and I'd also put my money on Son to assist Kane or Kane to assist Son.
I'm going for Brighton here, obviously. Graham Potter masterclass. Welbeck might score. I think they signed him recently, so maybe he'll come on or something. No, but obviously Tottenham should win it. I'm just hoping that Graham Potter can pull something off here.
Yeah, I think you won't like this, Manfred, but I think Tottenham are going to do something this season. I think they could finally land the trophy this season, but we shall see. A couple of games on Monday as well. Fulham against West Brom, 6:30, and Leeds against Leicester in a cracker. It should be a cracker on Monday night, 9 o'clock. Fulham, West Brom, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. 2 relegation candidates. Yeah, what else to say really here, lads?
No, that's a definition of a basement battle, and I don't know if this is too early in the season for this, but is that a 6-pointer already?
I was going to use that cliche when I was chatting about them, but yeah, proper relegation 6-pointer. West Brom, Bilic reeling from his defender being sold behind his back. Fulham need points, not being able to convert that possession into chances, into goals. I think it's definitely going to be an interesting one. Whether or not they can manage the breakthrough, who knows? I think it's a bit of a crapshoot.
Leeds have been flying this season and they've been a breath of fresh air. They play fearless football with the Bielsa ball, as you say. So, Leicester made some good signings too, and they kept Maddison, kept Vardy, kept the goalkeeper that I hate, Kasper Schmeichel. They've done all right so far, but I think people expect them to do a little bit better. Boyle by the win against Arsenal for sure. I'm going to go for a Leeds win here.
I think it's a bit of an even Stevens. Leicester will be happy to stop the rot last weekend, having lost that last 2 games. They looked good against Arsenal. They kind of played them at their own game a bit, passing out of the back. It's not a surprise that Vardy makes them a much more dangerous team playing on the shoulders of the defenders. But yeah, I think Leeds looked good value. It's just whether or not they can get the ball to Bamford for him to be able to score. Momentum
and Yorkshire pride, lad. Joe?
I know we mentioned earlier that we think Man United Arsenal will be the match of the weekend, but I actually think this one will be the one where there's probably the most entertaining football. Both teams like to attack. Leeds and Leicester both playing really, really good football. I'm actually going to go for a Leicester victory. I think Leicester may do a similar job to Leeds than what Wolves did a couple of weeks ago.
Vardy, the hero again this week, Manfred?
I don't think so. I think Leeds United will annoyingly play the football that we should have played against Leicester. And I think if we would have been a bit more outgoing, a bit more creative, I think we would have probably beat them in the last game. So I think Leeds, if they've got a good day and if it clicks, they're going to beat them.
Yeah, it should be a cracker as well. I mean, out of the games that we picked out, certainly Man United and Arsenal stands out. But Leeds and Leicester could be a good one. Liverpool, West Ham as well. Hopefully, we are running out of time here, guys. So we're going to say our goodbyes, and then we're going to leave you with a poem from the brilliant Kev, who's sunning himself on an island we cannot name. But Manfred, thanks a million for coming in. You've been brilliant. We hope you come back again.
Thank you for having me.
Joe, as always.
Thank you, JP.
Fino from Bonnie, Scotland.
Cheers, guys. Speak to you soon.
All right, guys, this has been the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Enjoy the weekend's games, and we'll chat to you again next Tuesday.
Double, double, toil and trouble. Fiery Leeds burst Villa's bubble. The final perfect record doomed as normal service is resumed. For yes, it's been a fun beginning to see the sleeping giants winning. Everton atop the table, the big six tottering unstable. But match week 6 was more in keeping with our predictions, roughly speaking, as Dean Smith's side's faultless start came to an end at Villa Park. On Friday night, where steel and skill saw Leeds secure a shock 3-0, a tight first half and then a hat-trick from cultured striker Bamford Patrick. That gave Everton the chance, their title options to enhance. But no, Southampton proved again, St Mary's is a lion's den. Danny Ings set up a brace and left the Blues needing to chase a comeback, but alas they didn't. Defeat plus a red card for Digne. Liverpool are on their shoulders, and who would bet against the holders? They miss Van Dijk, but bloomin' hell, they sure can win without playing well. The rivals must have been delighted as Wilder's cutthroat Sheffield United started full of sound and fury, and through the kind VAR jury made it 1-0 from 12 yards and threatened Anfield's house of cards. Reds were fearing for the worst until Firmino scrambled first. Mane then sends in a floater and up pops unmarked Diego Jota, his second Anfield goal converted, and somehow crisis is averted. Tottenham Hotspur nicked a win thanks to brilliant Son Heung-min reacting fast to head in snugly. Mourinho's men can too win ugly. 'Cause when the hurly-burly's done, when the title's lost and won, we'll look back on days like these as fundamental, the ABCs of a successful league campaign. You win somehow, then win again. United used to have the knack, but something's blunt in this attack. Their game v Chelsea finished goalless, their title dream already hopeless. Arsenal too were far from brilliant as Leicester, organised, resilient, left it late but not too tardy to take the points through Jamie Vardy. And what of City? Not good, frankly, denied late on by Fabianski as West Ham running into form held on for one more priceless draw. And City, now in 13th place, risk falling off the title pace. OK, I'm sure that's premature. Of drama there'll be plenty more. But on Saturday at Bramall Lane they really need to win again. Restore some verve, some spark, some sheen. And avoid a bloody Halloween.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.